And we'll go ahead and get started and open straight to questions here. A reminder to please raise your hand, media, if you have a question for either Gavin or Gio. And we will start with Paul Danzer.
Thanks for doing this, and maybe both of you can address this. But talk about the central back position and the depth there or lack of, and what you hope to do to address that. And I guess left back as well.
Go ahead, Gavin.
Oh, straight into it. Good afternoon, buddy.
Well,
How are you? I hope you're doing well, by the way. So,
okay, yeah.
okay. So, Paul, just great question. And it's a constant topic of conversation. We have 4 central defenders, which is reasonable. You know, Mabiala, Zupric, Tuiloma, and also Zach McGraw. Zach has come into preseason, and without speaking for Gio, it's been a topic, and everyone has been very, very impressed with Zach and how he's showing up and the physical condition he's in. Obviously, he's a young central defender, and it's a player that we need to look to give minutes. That does not take away from the fact that we do believe we need to add one more player in that position. And so it's not a situation where we feel overly rushed, Paul. It's a position that we need to get right. And we've got a couple of options, and we're continuing to look and explore other options as well, Paul. So it's something that we've addressed. We need it. Whether we bring the player in now, whether we bring the player in 2 to 3 weeks, it's not ultimately going to affect the first 5 to 6 games of the season. And so what we're looking at is a calculated risk to say, is this a position we add short term and take a player on loan, or is it a position until we wait till the summer window where ultimately player acquisition around the world is a little bit easier? So multiple things affecting the decision on that position, but it does not change our position that we do need to add a player, and we do need to add a central defender. So I'll move on to the left back. We were in a very, very fortunate position in 2020 with multiple left backs, and that was Villafania, that was Farfan. So the situation that we find ourselves in now, we've still got decent depth. We've got Claudio Bravo, and Carlos Van Rankin is proven on both sides of the field. We are still looking to add one more player in that position, but again, we're in no rush, Paul. It's a position where we also need to get right. We've backed Claudio Bravo, we've backed Carlos Van Rankin, and we have players in camp right now that could fill that need. We also have Blake Bodley that we're going to trial in that position, and that's obviously an experiment, but it's TBD, but those are the 2 positional needs that you've highlighted, and hopefully I've given enough background information on those. Gio, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think you pretty much said everything. Hello, Paul. Basically, you cover everything. I think that the most important part is to understand that we're very content with our 4 center backs that are at the moment practicing with us. We feel that we trust them very much. They've been working very well. And as we mentioned as well, yes, we have a couple of players here already training with us for the position of left back as well. And we had other options within with Van Rankin, who can play also left back, with Badali, who's a player that has shown a lot of versatility. So at the moment, we're not in any rush, especially on the center back position, because we want to get it right. We want to bring the right profile with the style of play that we have, and that is going to be able to add into what we're looking for this season. So better to do it right than to rush into bringing players when the opportunity is not there yet.
Okay, we'll go to Nick Krupke. Go ahead, Nick.
Hey guys, welcome back. Finally see a schedule today, at least for your first road game and your first home game. What's the significance of that? And then through all the protocol we went through last year, and you guys did, and we're so clean with it, how does that teach you now as you enter season 2 of playing during COVID times?
Nick, great to hear your voice, mate. good questions again. And Gio, feel free to interrupt at any time, mate. But the first question, it's great to have at least our first game out. We're looking forward to a few other games being announced very soon as well. Ultimately, we've got a congested first part of the schedule, but going to Utah to play Vancouver is a different experience. And that's one that I think we'll be well prepared for. We are going to Tucson for part of the preseason. And while that's very different conditions, it's great to get the team away and isolated and be able to focus a little bit more on the day-to-day needs of the team and the individuals. And that brings us to your other point relative to COVID. I think in 2020, one of the highlights for the entire club was how we managed difficult circumstances. And we're trying to do the same thing in 2021. We do not see things changing short term. We are optimistic that that we will be allowed a small number as far as attendance to games, and Merritt and Mike are working diligently on that. But when it comes to COVID management, we're still testing every 2 days, where the players are being extremely responsible. We're still trying to manage the unknown as well. And we'll continue to do our best in managing the environment. But I know everybody is taking it extremely serious, as we did in 2020.
No, exactly. Gavin, hello, Nick. Just hasn't been too many changes in the protocol, the way we handle the safety of the club, our environment with the players in keeping everybody safe. So the players, the staff, everyone has been very diligent in regards to that, and also adapting to so many different challenges that are thrown at us. I think it's been another forte of the group, which I think this year we have to be prepared that things might change, things might come in different ways. In the mentality is there to make sure that we adapt very quickly to those things. But I think right now with the schedule, the way we have seen, I think we like the way it's been organized because I think it has a good mix of away and home. Always difficult matches. There's never an easy game in MLS, whoever you play against. But the way we look at the matches and the locations that we have to go and travel to play, we feel that is a good schedule for us to begin. And also, we didn't want to back things up later on, which I think is a good thing, because we want to start right away from the beginning into playing, into spacing the right way the season. And that's one thing I think that we feel pretty good about looking at the first matches that we're going to have, including as well at the same time the CCL games that we have in front of us.
We'll go to Caitlin Murray, Oregonian.
Hi, guys. Thanks for doing this. First, how have the recoveries for Blanco and Niezgoda been going? And second, do you think you will need to bring in any sort of reinforcements, or is the plan just to make do with what you have until they're fully recovered?
Go on, Gio.
So should we say also about Niezgoda or?
Yeah, I think both would be great.
So yeah, so Niezgoda is definitely doing very well, and he has become a father, so that's a very good thing. So we are very content in the club to see him and his wife now, having a new baby. So that's always an exciting moment. He's doing a lot of work to come back. He's looking good. Of course, his recovery is going to take a little bit longer, but our performance team is doing a tremendous job to make sure that they are able to get him in the right place for him to be able to play. And Seba is looking very, very optimistic. We knew that Seba was going to work very hard to catch up and to try to return as soon as possible. We're being cautious in the sense of we don't want to push him to something at the moment that could slow down his recovery. But everything has been very, very, very good, and we're excited about where he's at. And I think soon enough, we'll see him already in the field. But one thing for sure is now, next week going to Arizona, he will be already training with the team in some capacity. And that's very exciting already. So he shows that he's in a good place right now to come back.
And just to elaborate, the performance/medical team have penciled Blanco in for the latter stages of April, and we are hoping, and Blanco's pushing for the start of April, but we'll do what's right for him and the team. And then with Niezgoda, the timeline is mid-June. And the second part of your question, we will not be adding reinforcements. I think the permanent acquisition of Felipe Mora, having a player as talented as Jeremy Ebobisse up top, I think we're very, very fortunate. And Jeremy also gives us positional flexibility. And I think we're covered in the positions that, fortunately, that Blanco and Niezgoda play in. So our depth there is good. And the only two positions that if need are at central defender and left back.
Okay, we'll go to Tom Bogert, MLSsoccer.com.
Hey guys, nice to speak with you again. This question's for the both of you, and a good segue there by Gavin. What are your thoughts on Jeremy being snubbed from the United States Olympic roster?
Oh, this could go on for a while, and this is something we're very passionate about. So I think opening Gio's better with this. It's being in a position to select players is never easy. We're fully supportive of the US men's national team, the U23s, and the entire process. We love our players. We love Jeremy and we love Eric. And for us, we were shocked. I think our opinion of the players is higher than others in positions where they're choosing the final roster. But we were shocked. Jeremy, I'm sorry, Gio. I was thinking, sorry.
No, I agree with you in the sense of our work has to do as well with trying to develop players that will be able to participate with the national teams and improve and compete for the national team internationally. So we work as well with a mindset of helping these players. And we have two, Jerbo and Eric, who have done very, very well for us. That we have seen grow through the years in order to make sure that they catch up to where they need to be. There's plenty of talent. There's always the difficult factor of having to select, and everybody has a different point of view. But I do believe, that these two players, Eric and Jebo, our players, have enough quality to be able to help the national team be a better national team. We're never going to question the decisions of the coaches or the selection process, but we are very much, in knowledge of what these two players are capable of doing, because they do it on a constant basis for us. That doesn't mean that they don't have to improve. There's areas that they need to improve still, but for us, they've been very important players because we see the talent, we see the capabilities. And we were surprised, to be honest with you, because we do know how much they can contribute, as much as they do here for any other team in the national team as well. So the good thing, to be quite honest, in regards to Jebo, is he's been training very well. He's very focused. He's very calm, and we see the quality day by day that he's providing for us. So sometimes it's a benefit, sometimes these kind of moments, and I think he's taken it in very responsible, very mature, the way it should be.
Okay, we'll go to Matt Pence from The Athletic.
Hey, Gio, you mentioned having to stay disciplined to make sure everybody stays healthy here. How do you sort of make sure that your guys are sort of mentally right, given that I would think that there's a little bit of COVID fatigue at this point? And how do you think it's easier or more difficult keeping your guys disciplined whenever there is kind of maybe this light at the end of the tunnel here?
It is risky when there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because you don't want people to feel that we're getting closer and then lose up a little bit that responsibility or the way things have been working. So we need to continue to stay in protocol. We need to continue to make sure that we do the things that we have done very well. I think a huge part is the commitment, not only of the players, but the families in their homes, to make sure that they keep things safe, because of course now things are opening, kids are going back to school, and there's so many variables that it's very important for everybody to keep protocols intact and they keep on being responsible. And it's been a challenge because it's not easy. But I think, this shows the maturity of the club, the maturity of the players, the staff, in order to make sure that we continue that way. And there's always a part of luck in this whole situation, because, this is a very difficult moments since last year. COVID is one that can come in so many ways. You need to have that little luck as well. But I think when you're responsible, the luck is a little bit more on your side. And our guys have been very, very good with the families that are part of this whole protocol in being disciplined as well.
We'll go to Michael McCall.
Hi there, guys. This is probably more a question for Gavin. We're coming up 10 years ago, the first MLS game for the club. Looking back at the past 10 years, how have you seen the club grow, and where do you see the club now as to where they were when they first came into the league?
Great question, actually. And that probably requires a longer sit down. It's an evolution, and one of the things that we're reminded of daily at the moment is, and it's, when I say daily during COVID times, is without our fans, we're nothing. I think that when you look at the lifeblood of the organization and what makes us relevant, it's not just the on-field results, it's not the culture of the organization, it's not the quality of the staff and the players, it's ultimately the fans. And to say that they've been mistering this the better part of a year is an understatement. So we're looking forward to bringing them back into the stadium. But looking at the club 10 years ago to now, there is no comparison. I think when you talk about evolution and you talk about brand recognition, expectations, respect around MLS and internationally, I think where we are today versus where we were 10 years ago, it's night and day. And there are a lot of individuals that have helped build the club over that period of time. And we're fortunate to have an incredible staff at the moment that continues to propel the club forward and continues to set the bar higher. And if you're around them on a daily basis, I think there could only be a level of respect and admiration. But that's a snapshot of how I feel about the club. Simply put, we've evolved in every way possible. When you even start to look at spend and player acquisition and importance, 10 years ago, we didn't have a Diego Valeri that is seen as one of the league's best players ever. We didn't have a Diego Chara. We've now got some history. We've now got expectations, and that continues to fuel us. But I would say that we continue to strive to win MLS Cup. And for me, 2015 seems like a long, long time ago, and there's constant pressure on a daily basis to revisit that feeling to win an MLS Cup. And I know that's the ambition of every MLS team, but for us, we do believe it's realistic.
Okay, we'll go to Joe Becker, K2.
Gio, actually, one of the questions earlier was one I was going to touch on, the mental aspect. I was curious how the team's doing. It's the second time around on the field, the camaraderie, and then how nice is it to have some sunshine here the past, several days?
Yeah, so I start with the second question, and it's great to have a sunshine for sure. I think the weather in Portland is great. Having stayed in Portland this winter, I've seen a little bit the colder side with some snow. But the good thing is right away the sun comes out and everything looks better. So it's I'm glad that right now it's getting to warmer days for us to have these practices as well. So it's been very good. The mentality, the locker room. That's one thing that I'm very content. I think last year was great. This year, look at the team even better. The way they have come, first of all, prepared to preseason shows me where they're at. I would say 95% of the players came in perfect shape and ready to be able to perform. So that's where we are. The guys really are hungry for this year. They want to come from the beginning and start working, and they want this year to be a very successful year. And I think what we have added, the pieces that we have added, just make our locker room even better. So the camaraderie that we see between the players is excellent. At the same time, they're competing in each position. And you see those things also that I think are very important in a team. You see those veteran players, grabbing some of the new players, some of the younger players, and talk to them and give them advice. And if it's because of the same part of the world that they come from, or because they play the same position, there's a lot of conversation going on in the locker room. And even though there's a very diverse group, the locker room is very united, and everybody understands that the strength of this group is the group at the end of the day, not an individual. So I'm personally very, very happy with what I have seen so far with this team, the character, and especially the environment in the locker room.
We'll go back to Paul Dancer.
How many trialists do you have right now? How many are going to go to Tucson? Yeah, just talk about that part of this preseason.
Yeah, so we have 2 trialists and another player that has been invited by us, and they're providing help as well with numbers in order to make sure that we have the right amount of players to do the preseason the way we want it. While we're looking also at these players in the future in the club, if it's going to be possible or not. So as Gavin said before, we're very content where we are with the roster. We will add up 1 or 2, but at the right time, because we want to make sure that we look at the best scenario and we don't have any rush to do things at the moment. But so far, those players that are training with us, so we're content that they are in our environment and practicing with us as well.
And Paul, Gio, just to add, previous questions about COVID, a lot of this is about managing risk. And every time we bring a trialist in, they have to go through a quarantine period. That means they're pretty much dormant for 5 to 7 days and going through a daily testing regime. It's difficult for that trialist to showcase themselves. So all the decisions have been to manage the environment while also trying to prepare the team for CONCACAF and for the MLS season. So we do have 2 trialists plus an additional one. And that brings me to another point. We're also releasing a player, and we are looking to, or we have finalized the departure of Tomas Konechny. He will be going through waivers with MLS today, and he's a young player that we saw having a very different trajectory with us several years ago. And based on the quality that's in front of him, we do feel that it's in his best interest to get minutes elsewhere. And the only way in which we could finalize that was a mutual separation. So we do wish him all the best, but that does create a numbers problem. And again, it goes back to doing what is right for the team and trying to create environments where we can play 11v11, because the number of games that we're able to get prior to the MLS season and CONCACAF is not as it was in years past. So making the most of the current times that we're in.
Okay, time for a few more. We'll go to Nick Negrini. Go ahead, Nick.
Hola, Professor Giovanni. I would like to speak in Spanish, if possible. Listening also, I have a question for Gavin.
Yeah.
Sí. So, first, Profesor Giovanni, ¿cómo está? Es un gusto volverlo a saludar. Siempre aquí tratando de llevarle toda la información a la gente sudamericana, en especial a Perú, y siempre preocupados por la situación de Andy Polo. Hoy estuvo entrenando en la Videna de Perú. Queremos saber, teniendo en cuenta de que Andy en los 5 últimos partidos que pudo jugar con Portland, 3 de ellos estuvo siendo titular, las otras alternando y marcando un golazo, como usted ya lo sabe. Queremos saber cuáles son los objetivos para Giovanni Savarese con Andy Polo para esta temporada. Sí. Also, le puedo preguntar a Gavin, pero primero me responde usted, profesor.
Perfecto, sí, bueno, primero un placer tenerte con nosotros acá. Andy es un jugador muy querido dentro del club por su personalidad, por la manera como es, y sobre todo un jugador que es muy importante para nosotros por su talento, por las cualidades que tiene como jugador, aparte de ser un jugador muy versátil, un jugador que tiene muchas virtudes, y estamos sumamente contentos de que sea parte del Portland Timbers. En este momento, como bien dijiste, está aún en Perú, está entrenándose con la selección. Estamos esperando lograr conseguir la manera de que ya tenga sus papeles en orden para poder regresar a Estados Unidos, lo cual estamos trabajando muy fuerte para ello, para tratar de terminar, para que se una al equipo, ya que es importante que esté acá porque es un jugador que nos aporta muchísimo, y del punto de vista como lo vemos es que es un jugador fundamental para el éxito de este club, más allá de lo que aporta en el camerino, que es mucho por su calidad de persona y y por lo que es dentro del grupo. Así que estamos muy contentos que va a continuar con nosotros, que hay un futuro. Él está muy contento de estar aquí en Portland y él también se quiere quedar acá por mucho tiempo.
We'll go back to Paul Danzer.
Yeah, I'm just curious, without T2 or reserve team, how do you keep younger players or players who aren't running time in the 18 fit and develop? What's your strategy for managing those players, especially younger players?
Yes, so I think we made great strides in this past few years in order to make sure that we accomplish what Gavin had in mind in regards to uniting T2 and the first team, in order to provide T2 with the opportunity to develop players, to give minutes to players that needed in the first team, and to be able to unite the two as a strength in order to make sure that we got all players at the same stage in their development and their fitness and all that. So 2020, unfortunately, provided a huge challenge, which we couldn't do what we were building before. So all those ideas that we put, at the end, that we were able to help, in the process of Gavin putting all this together, we couldn't accomplish it in 2020. Players couldn't come down because of the protocols. Players that were in T2 couldn't come to practice with the first team. So it became not what we intended to from the beginning. And some tough decisions had to be made in regards to that. And Gavin can speak a little bit more on that. But what I can tell you from a coaching standpoint, not having T2 or the ability, because I will say T2 is not about now, it's about also 2020. Definitely was something that was a little bit difficult because we use it very wisely and it had a purpose. But the times right now require for something different. And I will let Gavin talk a little bit more about the other part of it.
Paul, first of all, it's still a very, very important part of our planning and our future. I am extremely optimistic that in 2022, we're going to see the return of a T2 or an MLS U23 or MLS2, some version of a reserve side where we will have vertical integration again. I think when you look at 2021, we're managing 2, potentially 3 competitions. And that is the CCL competition, that is MLS, and it's also Open Cup. So having a roster where we have depth in every position is extremely important. And as you saw in 2020, there will be different players that showcase themselves and different players that get minutes. The objective of the organization is to play the players that give us the best chance of winning, while also taking into account that they're young players and they need minutes. I know there's a constant conversation between the coaches, myself, Ned, on what is right for each individual. And there will be a constant review on how we get players minutes. But again, if we get into the start of the year and Zach isn't playing for the first team, what is right for us and what is right for Zach? And that could be where we're loaning Zach out to get games with a different club in the USL. However, now we've got to manage COVID, we've got to manage the reintegration of the player, and we've got to look at the pros and cons and the timeline involved. So it's a complicated process. Every player has their development plan. We have assistant coaches that are overseeing the younger players to make sure that they're continuing to develop. And first signs based on Blake Bodley now versus a year ago, Zach McGraw a year ago, even though they were not able to get minutes, a lot of competitive minutes, they are still a lot better and further along in their careers than they were a year ago. So I think our staff are doing a tremendous job.
Yeah, and I will add to that as well about the individual training program that we have put together. I think it helps directly those players that are getting less minutes, especially to make sure that we are able to complement and continue to let those players grow in their process. And one of the things that we have seen also that for those players to have stayed in training with the first team, they have benefit because we have seen players like Zach and Bodley who stayed with us the entire year last year, that they were able to be in a better spot right now than we could have thought, and now it's about finding minutes, finding games, while still adding those individual trainings programs that we put in with our coaching staff and the younger players for sure.
We have time for one more question. If anyone has a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, we'll go to Efren Valverde, Berea Vision. Go ahead, Efren.
Mi pregunta es para Gio. Este es para todas las televidentes en habla hispana. Mi pregunta es, ¿qué tan ansioso está el equipo para comenzar la pretemporada?
Sí, bueno, el equipo, la verdad que ha estado muy ansioso de iniciar la pretemporada. Vimos cuando llegaron a Portland e iniciamos los entrenamientos individuales primero como parte del protocolo. Ya se veían que los muchachos tenían muchas ganas de haber participado, de iniciar, el tiempo desde el partido de Dallas el año pasado ahora ha sido mucho y los jugadores sin duda han regresado con muchas ganas de trabajar. Lo bueno que dije anteriormente también es que ya los jugadores han hecho bastante trabajo previo a la pretemporada, lo cual ha sido muy beneficioso para nosotros iniciar de la mejor manera. Ya tenemos varias semanas de pretemporada, los muchachos están trabajando muy bien y la verdad que queremos lo antes posible de iniciar los partidos. Ahora vamos a ir a Tucson, vamos a jugar partidos amistosos y después vamos a estar listos para jugar contra Maratón, que sabemos que va a ser un partido bastante difícil, no va a ser fácil. Ellos vienen jugando fin de semana, entre semana, 2 veces a la semana cada partido. Así que tenemos que estar bien preparados y los muchachos muy contentos de haber iniciado y ansiosos de ya participar en competencia.
Okay, thanks, Gavin. Thanks, Gio, and thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.